So we begin to move into second part of this class into an area on languages, populations, and societies. Title of the lecture is Socialization, Agency, and Identity. And to think about the second part of this class, it's important to remember that there are related fields that have different sort of intellectual divisions of labor. You have linguistics, which tends to be really focused on structural approaches to language. You have a field like anthropological linguistics. So this will be a linguist with anthropological training who may be interested in those issues of the biology and culture of language that we just talked about in the first part of this class. Issues, let's say, of language acquisition and change. And then we have linguistic anthropology, which tends to focus on living language varieties and ethnographic approaches to their study. This is the idea of understanding languages, populations, and societies. It's a contemporary linguistic anthropology approach. If you look at the Journal of Linguistic Anthropology, the leading journal, you can see that we're interested in a huge diversity of languages today. So just looking through the last 1 year's issues, you have focuses on Malay and Malaysian society, Hindi and Indian society, Singlish here among the South Asian diaspora, Tamil language for South Asia and Sri Lanka, Tahitian language from the Pacific, Vietnamese and Southeast Asia, Arabic from the Middle East, and Bosnian of Eastern Europe. Just a sample of the different languages and the kind of population and society level study. In addition, there's a theoretical development known as language socialization. And this is really guiding and pushing a lot of contemporary research today. This idea that language is a medium by which social interaction occurs, by which norms and roles are shared and learned, and various forms of social and political action are made possible. So what we were going to do today is this keywords approach to three terms: socialization, agency, and identity. And what we want to do is we want to examine and unpack the complexities of these technical words that really are quite central and pivotal to linguistic anthropology discourse. Although the keywords approach can really be taken to any technical words of any discipline, even within the context of public discourse. So language socialization is a concept and a theory that's generating a lot of contemporary research. So to begin is to think about the terms like a society and terms like social structure. So in a way we can think about society, right, being the total sum number of individuals of a particular population and their organization. Social structure can include a range of institutions, customs, laws, traditions, ideologies, which normatively, that is, in terms of what is socially understood to be good, correct, and right, kind of frame those interactions across the individuals of the population. Of course, it's interwoven into politics, such as governance, power dynamics. It's woven into things like economics and resource distribution. Social structure has many different levels. You can think about it at an interpersonal level. You can think about it in terms of various kinds of groups and organizations. You can also think about it in terms of large-scale institutions and systems. So for a primary kind of level, we can think about childhood and the family unit, the relation between children, parents, and caregivers, the kind of first individuals really introduce a child to societal expectations. But social structure is not experienced just within childhood. It's experienced throughout life through a broader range of relationships and institutions, such as, for example, schools and government, where more specialized knowledge, skills, values associated with a variety of different roles, such as, let's say, student and citizen. So you can think about social structure, right, at these different levels, from let's say a dyadic interpersonal relationship between a child and a parent, to large scale institutions like government, and to our roles and the knowledge and practices that go with that, such as being a citizen. The relationship between the government, right, and the citizen. Socialization is that process by which we come to learn and share social norms, whether that's at the primary level or the secondary level. It's a process by which we receive our identity, our role in society. It's the way that we learn knowledge of the institutions, customs, laws, traditions, ideologies of which we spoke about, right, that are normatively framing interaction. And socialization, while in a concept sense, right, it's abstract, it's removed from any one particular example, it still is very much an external material constraint. That is, it's a force that social scientists have to reckon with. It can be enabling for individuals, giving them particular kinds of opportunities, and it can be coercive as well, limiting their options. In this sense, its political implications, right, are quite profound. So imagine society as like a big puzzle. Each piece of the puzzle represents something humans do, like talking to each other, following rules, using tools. These pieces don't just fit together in a random way, rather they're connected in a socially structured way. So a related term here would be agency. So agency is a force. The agent is a force. It's one who acts, one who is capable of autonomy to some degree, who is capable of a choice. So social events can happen to agents, but they, as agents, interpret, choose, and have control over the events themselves. This is what we mean by this concept of agency. So an agent and how they think and behave reflects socialization, as well as their own force, their own action, their own autonomy, choice. Their thoughts and behavior modify society and the social structure by acting outside of its constraints. New customs, laws, and so on can come into being. Again, when we're talking about agency, right, we're talking about this ability of individuals in the populations to be forces who act autonomously and with their own choices. They can interpret, they can choose, and they can control events in society. They can both embody society through socialization, as well as have their own thoughts and behaviors, which ultimately will modify society and social structure. It will lead to behaviors that are outside the constraints of socialization, and it will develop new laws, customs, and so on. So we might say humans don't just fit the pieces together, but they also create them as they go. As they talk, follow rules, and use tools, they shape how those puzzle pieces look. The third term of our keywords for today is the notion of identity. The agent's ways of thinking, knowing, feeling, and behaving, its needs and goals, and so on, as you may be able to infer, right, are thus open systems. that develop in accordance with, on the one hand, the individual, the self, the I, as well as to the structure of society. Now, we often experience our identity as something natural or internal or essential, that pure I, if you will. But many of the aspects of personal identity reflect structure, social structure in society. They reflect how we are positioned vis-a-vis others within that structure. Sometimes within identity theory, this is the me, right? The object of others. Identity reflects this sense of sameness and difference in relationship to others in society. While structural factors provide a framework and context for identity, individual agents have the capacity to actively interpret, negotiate, and subvert them too, leading to unique forms of identity. So to conclude the kind of keyword discussion today, humans build society, but society also builds them in this intricate play, intricate dialect between those two poles. People are not simply passive players, but they're active creators and participants, much as we've seen in language acquisition and change. Comparative work on language socialization across societies, where we see action and behaviors getting learned and internalized, also can be seen to modify and externalize, be a complex form of social and political action. This really is the heart of this next unit of our course as we move these terms into a discussion of language socialization. In this field, you're going to encounter these concepts: socialization, agency, and identity. And the goal for today was to give you some background on them, to unpack them, to look at their complex interaction.